Welcome to the Tuning In podcast, where we talk alignment, intuition, and our internal guidance system. We cover woo-woo topics in an approachable and practical way. I'm your host, Dana Evans of Alignful.com. Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Tuning In podcast. This is episode 127. And I will tell you, it has been a while since I recorded. In fact, my last episode was on November 2nd. Oh my gosh, I can't believe it was on November 2nd. But I'm back. This is so typical of me, right? It's also my human design. I'm a projector with a 2-4 profile. And the 2-4 is the hermit / the opportunist. And the fourth line is the opportunist, which is like the socialite, the social butterfly, the one who wants to be around people, the one who likes to go really deep and get to know people. And then the 2 is the hermit, who likes to be alone and reflect and be quiet and watch. And so it's always this constant back and forth between the 2 extremes. But I think what happened was I did so much promotion for the emotional edit, which was amazing. And then I went into delivering that experience to the people who signed up. I had 12 beautiful souls that joined us. And I just kind of went dark online because I just didn't have it in me to both deliver the program and be super social. But I'm going to do a recap post of the Emotional Edit program because I will be running it again in March. And I'm collecting surveys from the people who joined and just getting feedback and thinking about it and what I want to shift for next time, what worked, what didn't. I did a debrief with my dear friend and magical integrator, Kimi. She's not my integrator, but she is an integrator, and she helped me just recap the experience, and it was just amazing. It was really amazing. I have not done any group-related activity for 2 years. I've only been doing one-to-one, and I really enjoyed the experience, and those who were in it seem to really enjoy it as well. So more group stuff coming from me in 2023. So keep your ears open. So that was going on. And it's so funny too. This is something I kind of need to process, but I was sick before I started promoting the emotional edit. I actually had to push my promotion back because I got sick. And then I ran the program. In the last week of the program, I delivered the last call and I was kind of sick. And then I got super sick right after it ended. So it was only a 4-week program. So I think that was really interesting that I was sick on both ends of it. And I traveled 3 times during the program. So definitely these were all part of my debrief that I did with Kimi. Was these are interesting things that happened. Let's look at that. But now it's December, and this episode, I actually have something specific to share with you, an experience that I had this morning, and living this work, living your inner voice and emotional processing in the wild. And I'm going to share with you some of what came through with that and how you can do something like this as well on your own. But I also just wanted to pop in and check in and see what's going on. So I gave you kind of the rundown of the Emotional Edit program, and that is coming back in March. And then I went to visit my brother in Lake Tahoe for Thanksgiving, my brother and my sister-in-law, Daniela. And we had such a great time. I got sick on the way home from that trip, but I was there for a week and it was such a wonderful trip. It was so fun and so active. I skied for only the second time in my life. So they taught me to ski this February, or I think it was this year. I'm a Colorado native. I'm a Colorado native. And I have never skied. I had never skied until it must have been in December. I'm looking at my calendars. December of 2021, I was in Lake Tahoe. Oh, I was there for Thanksgiving last year also. How about that? Gosh, time flies, doesn't it? Do you ever look at your calendar? I think they taught me to ski in February of 2021. I thought it was February of this year. No, they taught me to ski in February of 2021 in Lake Tahoe. I'd never skied before in my life as a Colorado native. And I actually kind of liked it. Then I visited them in November, but we did not ski. And then I went this summer. I visit them a lot. It's like my second home. I love being in Lake Tahoe. I love visiting them. We didn't do anything. And then in November, so I was just there in November, we skied. We did 2 days of skiing. And I'm kind of good, guys. Like, I'm no expert, but I'm definitely taking to skiing. So I love that this is like part of a new thing that's emerged for me in the past, 4 months, is I'm interested in hobbies again. I've never been much of a hobbyist, but I took up horseback riding lessons in August, which I've continued. I'm in love. Will continue to take those lessons. And now skiing. And I'm like, skiing's cool. Like, this is a good skill to have. I won't do much skiing in Colorado because, frankly, it's kind of a pain in the butt to do it here. It's very expensive we don't have a ski pass. It's a lot of traffic. I can think of a lot of negatives. I know there's a lot of positives, but I probably won't be skiing again. But John and I might ski in Santa Fe, which might be fun. So anyway, so that's new. I skied again. I'm doing my horse riding lessons. And now that it's December, I spent the first full week of December. So I was sick the week I got back, like the 28th through December 3rd. And then my first full week, which was last week, the 5th through the 9th, I spent what I've been calling buttoning up things, which my magical morning partner, Candace, thinks is such a funny term, but I use it all the time. I'm like, I just need to button up the year. And that's what I've been doing. I've been doing a lot of reviewing the business, going through files. I was buttoning up things from the emotional edit, doing the survey and like closing out that with the debrief. And I just have like things that I want to close out. Also doing a review of my business. I joined my friend Elsie. She has a little mini program right now called the Simple Business Model. And I've been playing with that, just like looking how I can simplify, like what changes I want to make to my business, how I want to make it easier, how I want to run a leaner business. And then like where I'm looking to expand for next year. And one of the things, like I said, is group offerings and some lower price one-to-one, which is kind of exciting. I released this to the emotional edit people as like a little quiet back end way we can continue working together. But I'm also releasing it to the public, doing a single month emotional exploration. So it's 4 weeks together, 4 hours of session time where we work with your inner voice. We do emotional clearing. We do nervous system regulation. And we choose one topic. So one emotion or one theme that keeps coming up. And we're going to deep dive into that single thing. And I think this is so cool. Like if you want to explore your relationship with grief, right? If you want to explore a pattern that keeps coming up, like say, it could even be like a habit, right? Like you're biting your lip, or a pattern of never finishing things, like something really specific. And then we spend an entire month exploring it with your inner voice as our main guide. And that's $15.55 for the month. And that's, like I said, it's 4 hours of session time. It's not 4 sessions per se. We're going to work with your inner voice to determine when and how frequently we have sessions. Like maybe we have 8 30-minute sessions, or we might have 2 90-minute sessions and then 2 30-minute sessions, or one. Just, it's kind of fun. I'm opening up like the structure so it's a little more fluid. And then in between session support from me, which I also haven't done in a while, but I'm playing with a way to connect with you in between where it's not like constant communication, but like little check-ins during the week with you and your inner voice and that theme or emotion that you're working with. So if that's something you're interested in, that will be starting in January. I'm only going to be working with 6 people. I don't know, 5 or 6 no more than 6, but it might only be 5 for the first round of this. And that's kind of, I don't know, I was inspired. My inner voice gave me the price of $15.55, which I think is a steal. I'm like, this is awesome. And we just get to go deep and completely and radically transform your relationship to that emotion or theme. It's going to be so freaking cool. So that's happening in January. I'll put a link to that. It's called Emotional Exploration. I'll put a link to that in below. And then you can stack months, right? If you want to do 1 month, you want to do grief, maybe you want to do grief again, maybe you want to do joy, maybe you want to do a pattern, like you can re-up and join again. But I'm starting out with only 5 or 6 people, and we're going to start probably the 2nd or 3rd week of January. It's a 1-to-1 offer, to be clear, but I'm only inviting 5 or 6 people to join me in that. Otherwise, you'll be put on the wait list for our work together the next month in February. So that's that. That was a fun thing that came through. I also would love to hear from you. So, my dear listener, I want to know if there's things you want me to talk about, like leading from this idea of I'm a projector. My strategy in human design is to wait for the invitation. And I want invitations. Like I would like to know what types of things you'd like to hear from me. I have 2. I have one request to talk about like the difference between how I talk about feelings and emotions and processing them versus the more traditional thoughts create feelings, change your thoughts, change your feelings, right? Manage your feelings. So that technique. So that's something I'll talk about. I was also asked to talk about how I got into this work. And it's like a long winding story. And also like, is this something I've always naturally been drawn to? Or did I like learn it? So that's another podcast episode that I'll talk about. But I'm going to create a form and I'll just put the link in the bio called topics that you want to hear about. So just in your podcast app, just scroll below the episode. That's where like the show notes and the description are. You just scroll down and I'll have links in there and I'll have a link to a form where you can just submit like things that you want to hear about from me or questions that you have for me. So that's in there. And I just like, for me, one thing I really realized too in the group program is I love engaging with people. So a podcast is fun, but sometimes it feels like I'm talking into a void and I'm like, is anyone listening? Is anyone out there? Like, do you want to hear things? So it would be really fun for me to have a more engaged podcast experience where like you leave requests, like you leave comments, like you let me know if it resonated, what you want more of, what you want less of. And so it can be more engaged. So I'm just going to create a form for you to fill out, like a whatever form, questions, comments, requests. I would love that. I love engaging with people so much. Again, there's the 4 in my profile, whereas also what's been happening the last couple of weeks is I've just like disengaged from people. And I've really been in this hermit phase. So I knew my inner voice had guided me a long time ago, actually. I don't even know when, but basically it was like, you need a time off from Instagram. And I say social media, but Instagram is really the only social media that I use. I use Facebook. I'm a coach for James Wedmore's Business by Design community. So I coach in the group with Facebook. But beyond that, I don't use Facebook. I don't use TikTok. I mean, I have a TikTok, but I don't really use it. I don't even know what else I don't use, but Instagram's the main one. And I just had known it was time. So once I finished promoting the emotional edit, I realized like December's the perfect time. And so December 2nd, I went off of Instagram, which is a big social place for me. My friends are there. I love watching their stories. Like I do love seeing what people are up to. And also it just was getting to a point where I was too sucked in. And it was so weird. I was spending all this time on the Discover page. I wasn't really following anyone. So I unfollowed everyone. I think I was following like 6 or 7 people. I unfollowed everyone again, cleaned up my Instagram, did a post that said like, I'm going to be off, but here's how to stay in touch while I'm off Instagram. I don't know when I'll be back on. I'll have a nudge. But yeah, my friends are there. So it's like sometimes a little lonely. You're like, what are people doing? I'm sad. But those who I'm closest with, we can text, we have each other's numbers. And I can see the value of like untethering because Instagram really keeps me very tethered, which in a lot of ways is beautiful and supportive. But in a lot of ways, it also sucks me into things that like I don't need to be constantly exposing myself to. Like the Discover page, I'm like watching random people's stuff. And I'm like, do I care? No, I care what my friends are doing, but I don't care what Joe Schmo, who I don't know, is doing. And yet here I am watching their content. So it's really good for me to completely disconnect, untether, unplug, cut the cords of Instagram, break that pattern and habit. And it was so crazy. I looked at my screen time report. So the 6th was my first day off of Instagram. The 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th. So 4 days off Instagram, my screen time was down 33%. My pickups of my phone were down like crazy. I was at like some insane number. I don't even know. And then I was down to like 13 phone pickups. And it's unbelievable. My mind, just in a week of being off Instagram, my mind is reprogramming and it's not reaching for my phone constantly, checking. So that's really good. I just can't even believe what's going to happen in, another week, right? So that's been a big thing for me. Unplugging and spending time inward. I have like some cool announcements that I will not be making right now, but there's like things that are kind of correlating with that. But one thing I've really been desiring to do lately is clear out. We've been in our house for, I think, almost 12 years. And I'm pretty good at like cleaning out and making space. I record it on the podcast constantly, right? You guys always hear about my clear out efforts. But still, like, even with that, like, stuff accumulates. And so what I've been called to for December, and my inner voice talked about this morning, what I've been called to do is really make space. And so yesterday, I pulled all of the papers. You know how like you kind of just like end up with random papers and like documents and things that you need to deal with? I had them in my desk drawer and John's desk drawer and our extra desk drawer. And then I had 2 filing cabinets of like papers that I've collected over the years. And so I sat down and went through all of them. I listened to classical music in my headphones and went through all the papers. And 80% of them, 90% of them were trash. So those are going in like a shred/recycle pile. And then I had a stack of folders that I've made into folders now of like just some little things like stuff from John from college, stuff from me from my college, some of my early business things that I've done, a folder for Mia, a tax folder, house, folder for like our house stuff. So it's like those are the essentials that we need to keep. And then I had a pile of things like to deal with. Like I had a couple random bills that were sitting that they need to be paid. I had my car registration. And that was it. It was so cool. I'm like, oh my God, all these papers were just sitting here. So I got rid of those. I went through my books again, and I'm going to do a big book donation to the library. I'm going to go through my linen closet. Like there's all these sheets and old comforters and things we don't use. Like I want to donate those. I want to go through my clothing again. I want to go through my kitchen and get rid of things that I don't use or that I have duplicates of. Like we just store stuff, or at least I do. And I'm like, I'm done. I'm so sick of like having things. Like I'm looking even right now. I have this candle that I wanted this candle so bad, but it sucked. It was such a stupid candle. It smells amazing. It smells so good. But like the wick wouldn't burn. It kept burning out. It burned in this weird thing. And now it doesn't, there's like the wick's flat. And I just like had a tea candle. Like, why do I have this candle holder? I don't need it. Like, goodbye. There's like weird things that you just like hold on to or that I just hold on to that I just don't want to keep anymore. So that's happening this month. I'm not doing like big active work things this month. And that's kind of my desire every year, is to have as much space as possible and do like the minimum viable effort in December. That's what I did last year. It was amazing. That was what I was guided to do during the sloth experiment, the first year that I explored this stuff. So that was 2020. That was like my first idea of like, oh, maybe you don't have to like push all of December. It's been a freaking life changer. I can't even tell you. My mind still gets stressed out about it. My mind still freaks out about not having a full enough schedule in December. And yet, without fail, it's not exactly like I'm planning to not have a full schedule. It just happens. It happened last year. It happened this year. And it's like life is aligning for me because I get everything I want. And what I want on a deeper level is to not have to be slammed in December. And embracing that, right? It's hard for the mind. It's very stressful for the mind. But without fail, that's kind of how things happen. And then I get to focus on life things, clearing out the house, right? Like cooking and making yummy meals. I made pumpkin scones last week and we ate those. And I have some gifts that I need to mail for some friends. And I have all these appointments scheduled, right, that I've been putting off. And I want to go spend time with my parents and just like hang out with them, not have to rush off. So those are kind of like, that's December for me. And this morning my mind was feeling a little panicky about that. And I did a meditation. I was up at like 5:15 and I sat down, I did a meditation and then I just sat there after the meditation in silence. And I was breathing and just sitting there. And my mind was kind of like going a little bit. And then I had this thought of humaning is hard. Humaning is hard. And that actually was a charged thought. And I was like, whoa, where did this come from? And all of a sudden I felt it. Oh, so dense and heavy in my chest. And this is what I opened with. I said I wanted to share with you. So we're flowing right into that. I felt it. And here's the deal, guys. I didn't feel like going into it. I really didn't. I was like, ugh, whatever. But I'm like, no, let's do this. Let's go into this. Like, this is the work, right? This is the work. Humaning is hard. And I just started breathing. I was rocking back and forth. Humaning is hard. Humaning is hard. And I started talking it out. I do this a lot. This is a big part of my emotional processing process for myself, is saying the words, like saying all the things that we're not supposed to say, right? Like, it's hard. I feel like I'm doing everything wrong. Shouldn't it be easier? Like, why is it hard for me? Like, it's way harder for other people. Why am I upset that it's hard for me? Like, why I feel like no matter what I do, I can't keep up. I'm always behind. I'm never doing it right. It doesn't matter how much I do, it's never enough. And if I choose to step back and do a little, then I feel like I'm doing the little wrong. And I was just talking and it's like, oh, I was like feeling tears and emotion and tightness in my chest. And then all of a sudden I start hearing like little interruptions, like little blips, blips, blips from my inner voice. Like, you're not doing it wrong. What if it wasn't as hard? It's okay that it's hard. It doesn't always have to be hard, right? And it was saying like, you're not doing anything wrong. You're doing it right. You're humaning right. Humaning is an experience. It's not good or bad, easy or hard. It's all of it. And then I'm breathing, right? And then I start tapping. We did a lot of a great session of this in the emotional edit where it's not tapping, the EFT tapping. I've actually started doing more of this like body tapping, like tap my chest, tap my solar plexus, tap my belly. Can you hear that? And it's like a little stronger of a tap. And I just am talking and tapping and breathing and swaying and crying. And then all of a sudden my inner voice starts coming through and it starts taking over. So the mind was talking first and all of its fears and doubts and worries and just insecurities and sadness. And then my inner voice comes in and it starts sharing and I'm talking out loud. I did not record it. Didn't have that foresight, but it's just going and talking and like, this is your time to be and breathe and expend your time with us and me and come back to yourself, and you will see everything is meant to be. Let it be here. Let yourself be. Let yourself breathe, and you will finally see there's nothing wrong with what you're doing. There's nothing wrong with how you are being. This is your time for you. Trust us when we say this is true. Everything will shift from 2022. It's time to shed. It's time to clear. It's time to let go of all your fears, of everything that you're not desiring. It doesn't need to be here. Let it go, let it go, let it go. Slow down. You don't have to do it right. You can watch your shows. You can watch your movies. You don't have to do everything that makes you better all the time. Just be here. Allow it. Enjoy it. Breathe it in. It's here for you. Can't you see? Can't you see? It's here for you. And anyway, that was just, I'm not quoting my inner voice. That was my inner voice just sharing more for me for the podcast. But it was like that for like 15 minutes. I kept thinking, like, is it going to stop? It just like kept sharing and sharing and sharing and sharing. And I would like my voice would crack during some of the words because it was so hard for my mind to allow and receive it. That like, it's okay that I'm watching multiple movies in the afternoon. It's okay that my mornings are really slow. It's okay that I'm focusing on clearing out and organizing. It's okay that like I'm not booked up with tasks right now. Like it's okay to have space. And it's not forever. I haven't done anything wrong. Like there's more coming, right? The expansion is coming. Like just be here now. And it was so beautiful and crazy and amazing. Like, and this does happen to me. This is like my inner voice. If I open the channel, it will just pour. And it was so beautiful to receive this from myself. Like that permission slip, like you're not doing anything wrong. It's okay. And also your inner voice will tell you if you are meant to be doing something else, right? Like if it wanted me to be booking sessions and planning for 2023 and like pre-booking, like it would share that with me. But it was like, no, just like chill the fuck out. Like process your year. That was the message I was getting. Like the energy of the message was like, you have to let the year land. And there's this big jump. Now this is my mind processing, but it's like there's this big jump between closing out 2022 and jumping into 2023. Like I've always felt this. I talked about this last year on the podcast. I know I did. It's like we just want to tie everything up in a bow, button it up, button everything up, finish up, do your journaling, do your goal setting, move on. Book out January, start fresh, start new you, new year, new goals, right? New body, new nutrition plan, new energy, right? New money. There's so much pressure to close out the year. And I feel like it happens like we're supposed to do it in like a couple days. But what if we need more time to sit with it and process and like let it land? We need white space. And it's just not built in. I talked about this in the emotional edit too, of like, everyone wants to push, and not everyone, that's not fair, but there's a collective energy of people saying, this is the busiest time of year. December is such a busy time. It's such a stressful time. There's so many things with family. There's so many, you're shopping, you have holidays, you have holiday parties, you have all these events and things, and you're trying to close your business out strong, and you want to end on a high note, and you want to prepare yourself, and you want to goal set, and you want to debrief your year, and you want to make sure next year is your best year. Like, it's a lot of pressure for December. And even if you had the entire month, I still think we'd be hard pressed to do all of it. And I like to ease into January. Like, really, it's not until February that I feel ready to start the year. For me, December and January, I just have, like, it's not even that I have to slow down. I do slow down. And all my life, I always tried to push against that. I always tried to push against the natural desire to slow down in December and January, and to slow down in December and ease into January. It's like a downshift through December, go into neutral, and then not go right into fifth gear in January, but like go into first gear, second gear, third gear, hang out in third gear for a little bit, fourth gear, right? It's like easing in, a runway on each side. And I think there's so much value in that. And I know that we don't all have the choice or the say, but there are spaces where if you tune in and listen, like you might be guided by your inner voice to not do that holiday party, right? To not do that extra trip, to not book those extra clients, wait until January, to not push yourself to goal set right now. Like there might be nudges to not do things, just as you'll have nudges to do things. You know, you might exactly the opposite have the nudges to do all the things I just listed. But what if December was an unloading? And that was kind of the image I got from my inner voice. It was like, unpack. Like you've been packed and wound up and like you've had an entire year of things. This is the time to unload, to unpack, to discharge, to slow down, and just to like even numb out a little bit. You know, my inner voice was like, watch the movies. It's okay. Like read the detective books. Because my mind was like, oh, I should read this book. I have like a bunch of books that I just don't feel like reading right now, but I've downloaded and I like my mind wants to read them because they are betterment books, right? They're self-improvement, they're learning books, they're all of that. But every time I like pick one up to read, I just don't feel like it right now. My inner voice is like, read the detective books. It's okay. Read the books that are fun and enjoyable. Like do the things that you're called to. Like I had this whole list yesterday. My inner voice was like, you can just sort the papers. Like you don't have to do all the business things today. Like sort the papers, just sort the papers and then watch a movie and then see what you're called to do next. And I actually had like a ton of energy in the afternoon. I like did all this stuff and it was like really productive. But in the middle of the day, I just like crashed. And so know that there might be an opportunity to follow the fun, right? And to let your inner voice, your inner guidance guide you toward what is in the best and highest alignment for you this month. Because you don't just have to process last month, like you have a whole year. There's a lot that needs to land and settle, and a lot of reflection doesn't come from per se doing the journaling prompts, doing all of the oh my God, there's so many journal prompts. And my mind's like, let's get all of them. Download. It wants all of them. But my inner voice is like, we just want to like hang out and sit and like have some nothingness, right? Untether from people, like disconnect, not be super engaged so that we can have space to just like reflect and daydream. And I had some things this morning just after the meditation before all of what I described. I was just sitting there in silence. I was like, hey, that's a fun idea. Like I had this kind of fun thing pop into my mind of like an emotional exploration workshop in February. And those who join the emotional edit in March will get that workshop for free. Or they can apply that workshop to their purchase of the emotional edit. And it would be like we explore like love and grief and like the big heart emotions that come around February. I love February. It's my birthday month. It's love month. There's Valentine's Day, which I know a lot of people are curmudgeons about, but it's like, I just love love and pink and hearts and the rainbow that comes with that. And so it's like, that kind of just popped up. My mind didn't think of that, right? And I might not do anything with it, but it was like, oh, this is what happens when we have blank space. And blank space actually can mean numbing out, as in like, just read the pleasure books, watch the shows, watch the movies, just hang out a little bit more. You know, it doesn't have to be all day, every day, but like maybe you do that. Maybe you break up your rigid routine schedule this month and just like let yourself play of like, what am I called to do? Because when your inner voice is guiding you with that, like that's when the ideas are going to come. That's when the insights are going to come, right? Insight. That is the name of my 3-month one-to-one program, Insight. Because we slow down, right? We downshift, we create space, we feel, we explore, and then we have the nothingness where the insights, the downloads, the reflections, the ideas can show up. And that's what I think December and January could be about. Like, how cool would that be? And this might not be for everyone. Like, if you feel excited to go hard in December, like, please follow that joy and go. Like, make those offers, make those sales, like, do those programs, do those courses. But also, if you don't feel called to that, if you're more like me, don't let that collective pressure of what this month should be corrupt you into doing your way into the new year and pushing. If that's not a call for you, like if that's not in alignment, if you're craving more space, more quiet, more inner time, right? More darkness, then what would it look like to allow more of that in? And it likely looks like saying no to things. There's certain things you can't say no to, right? If you have kids, you got a job that has demands, like there's certain things you can't say no to, but there are things you can say no to. And it's not about the mind even choosing. It's about listening to those inner nudges from your inner voice of like, what's a yes, what's a no? And then letting that guide you through the year, through December, as you close out, as you settle, as the month and the year land. What if you didn't have to do anything to reflect? What if it was just about making space and slowing down and having a little bit more quiet time? What if all the answers you had could come from there and from the wisdom of your inner voice? Instead of the mind trying to reflect and make lessons and make goals and force a process that honestly I think takes a lot more time than we allow for it. With that, I love you. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being here. I hope to have a few more episodes this month. We'll see. I don't know how that will go. If I have insights, I'll share them. Otherwise, make sure you're on my email list, the Vitamin D newsletter. And if you have any topics or questions or comments, literally just anything, I'm just going to create a little form where you can submit whatever's on your mind about me or the podcast, anything you want to know more about, anything you want to hear more about. I would love that. And I'll also put the link for the Emotional Edit waitlist for March and for the Emotional Exploration 1-month deep dive. And I would love, love, love to hear from you. I would love to work with you. I would love to keep this exploration going. There's so much to come. I'm so excited for 2023, but in the meantime, I would love it. I'm just going to settle and clear out for the rest of the year and make space for what's coming. And if you join me, let me know. As always, thank you so much for tuning in. I'll catch you next time. Thank you for joining me on another episode of the Tuning In podcast. As always, if this would resonate with anyone you know, please share the episode. You can follow along with my journey on Instagram at Dana_Evans or find me on my website at alignful.com.